Hey everybody, JC here, and we have yet another episode, since it's October, of paranormal stories, ghost stories. Just who knows where this conversation will lead, because I like to have a really good time and just kind of let it go and see what happens. So I have with me some amazing people today, and I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you. So let's dive right in. Kristine, will you start us off by telling us who you are and what you do?
Ooh, hot seat number one. So my name is Kristine. I am the resident go-to podcast manager as well as world traveling mermaid. Not only am I a digital nomad, I also work with fellow adventurers who are ready to add a podcast into their marketing belt, which allows everyone to connect with their audience on a more intimate level and gain new leads.
Yay!
So I hope,
love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say something else? I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay. Hearing voices in my head. Dr. Robb, will you please share with us who you are and what you do?
Hi guys, my name is Dr. Robb Kelly. I specialize in anything to do with psych, so addiction, alcoholism, depression, PTSD, all that great stuff. I've been in the industry for about 30 years and I have 5 offices around the world, and we're a multi-million-dollar company, which is exciting for me because I used to be homeless at one time.
It's a little bit hard for me to hear you. We may want to edit this part. Can you either get closer to your mic or can you turn up your volume? I didn't notice it so much earlier, but when you were telling us everything there, I feel like I missed part of it.
Give me 1 second while I adjust.
Okay. And I normally don't edit, but
my goodness, it was really low.
Yeah, that was
How's that one there?
That's good. That's good right there.
All right, take 2.
I think we got a little bit of, wait, and make sure we don't have any feedback. No, I don't hear me now. Does anybody else hear me? I think we're good. Okay. So, Dr. Robb, will you tell us who you are and what you do?
Hey guys, my name's Dr. Robb Kelly. I'm a psych doctor, anything to do with the mind and the brain, pertaining to anything from addiction, alcoholism, PTSD, childhood trauma, depression. I have 5 offices around the world. I'm a TV personality, radio. I have books out there, which is awesome for me because I used to be homeless with alcoholism. I lost everything in my life, and I lived on the streets for 14 months back in the UK. And here we are today.
I never ended up on the street, but technically I have been in that position where I lost everything, homes, the business, the whole. So I get it. I resonate with you. Nicole, will you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Nicole. I am in Canada, close to Toronto, and I have seen spirit all my life. So I thought it was crazy when you're a kid, and parents then later going from there and giving wonderful messages to people and really seeing what would happen every once in a while, and walking through a store is kind of fun. So
lovely. Dr. Robb, if you could turn your volume down just a hair. I'm sorry, I know we're juggling with yours, but I'm getting just a little bit of feedback because I could hear Nicole a little extra. Cool. And then when we get back to you, Dr. Robb, if need be, we'll have you crank yours back up. We'll make it work. It's no problem. Like I said, I usually don't edit. I'm like, we got this. So, all right. Kristine, will you share with us what you brought to the table today?
Oh my gosh, my spooky story, is that what you're asking for? Oh my gosh. I would like to lead off by saying I firmly believe in the supernatural world and ghosts and demons and all of that stuff. I refuse to watch those movies because I believe in it all so much, and it just is too real for me. So I can't. Give me a bloody murder movie and I'm all about it, but as soon as you turn on a paranormal movie, I'm out of the room.
Yeah, no, I
do have one very outstanding experience that scared the crap out of me for about 4 months straight. So I was living at my parents' house at the time, and I think I was probably about 18, 19 years old, something like that. And I lived in the basement. That's where my room was, my safe place, my happy place, right? I spent a lot of time down there. And it was just any normal day, any normal night. And I went to sleep all peacefully and happily as one does. And I always leave a little lamp on because not only am I scared of spirits, I am scared of the dark because of the spirits.
Been there, been there.
So I always leave a little light on just so there's a little dimness and I can see around the room at night. And I remember falling asleep and then waking up in the middle of the night and kind of just feeling eerie, just feeling kind of weird. So I was 95% still asleep. I kind of like opened my eyes and kind of looked around a little bit and felt this feeling that like something was watching me, something was here. And I'd never had that before. And I was like, oh God, not my safe space. So I was just kind of glaring, looking around the room a little bit. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move a little bit. So I kind of looked over, not wanting to move too much. I didn't want it to think I was awake too. But I kind of looked over into the corner of my room and I saw this figure. I couldn't describe it at the time, but it was just like this shadowy figure in the corner of my room. And immediately I just started, my heart was just racing and I just laid perfectly still. And I was like, oh God, just please think I'm sleeping. Just please leave me alone. Just please leave the room. Oh my gosh. And then I remember slowly pulling the blankets kind of up over my face because I was like, if I can't see it, it can't see me. And then out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I just felt some huge pressure on my chest, pushing me into my bed, and I just could not move. And again, I just was freaking out in my brain. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. I was just panicking. And then the next thing I feel, something on my ankle, and I just get ripped out of my bed. And then all of a sudden I can move again and I'm on my floor. And I was fully lucid and aware of everything that was going on, but just absolutely paralyzed when everything was going down. And from that day forward, I didn't sleep in that room for 4 months. I wouldn't even go downstairs into the basement. I was sleeping on the couch upstairs. I told my mom and dad what had happened and why I was sleeping on the couch upstairs. And they thought I was just absolutely crazy. They're like, Kristine, you just dreamed it. You just dreamed it. And I was like, no, it's like, I didn't. I was like, something pulled me out of my bed. And horrified, absolutely horrified.
Girl, I've never had anything actually. I've been touched before, but I've never, not forcefully enough. Sorry, I have a little spider. How ironic for Halloween. And he's not even my pet, but he's over here close. Anyways, sorry. I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? But I've never had enough, whatever, where something's, really yanked blankets off or done any of that or even moved me. So that would be pretty scary.
Like I did some research on it and everyone told me it was sleep paralysis. I was like, that's totally fair. I can get on board with that. But why did I get pulled out of my bed, guys? I was like, there's a little missing piece to the puzzle here. Because, I was looking online and you could see like Slender Man and the Blob or the Old Lady. Yeah. And I was like, what I saw was kind of old lady looking-ish. I was like, I could get on board with that. But something pulled me out of my bed and I don't know what happened or why it happened. And I've never had an experience like that ever since that day. That was the one and only time.
That's interesting. So it wasn't necessarily about the location that you were in. It wasn't the house. That's interesting.
No, well, I don't know.
I mean, well, really, we don't. We can contemplate and research and investigate, but it's not always easy to come up with answers to those things. Wow. That's, that'd be pretty scary. No doubt. It reminds me, I don't know about everybody else, it reminds me of a different experience that I had, but it never touched me, but it was my first time of seeing something and it was right here. And I thought it was my father because I thought it was my dad and then I was like, no, wait, that's way bigger than my dad. And I was like, I was young and I panicked. I was probably 16, 17, something like that. I panicked. So now I can see stuff and it doesn't freak me out as badly, but that freaked me out. So anyway, wow, girl. Wow. So do you still leave your light on?
Oh my gosh, yes. Absolutely, I do.
If it's scary enough, I certainly do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's super funny because I always think back on that experience. And I actually was just down in Mexico doing some scuba diving, getting my rec certification. And we went into like a dark, abandoned, sunken ship. And that is the first thing that popped into my head when I started to go down into the darkness of the ship was, oh my God, I'm gonna see a ghost. I'm gonna see a dead body down here. Something's gonna pull my tanks apart. And I just started losing it as soon as I went into that darkness, because I had that image of that experience just instantly pop into my head when I went down in there. So it's still with me to this day. I still think about it, but it's not like it hurt me or anything. It just was very startling.
It certainly got your attention, though, for whatever reason.
Oh, did it ever? Yep.
Interesting. All right, Dr. Robb, what have you brought to my table today?
Well, this is a strange one. I would only, it happened 30-something years ago. I only started sharing it about 4 years ago. So I'm on the streets homeless. I've lost everything, my children, ages 1 and 3. I was sleeping on benches, stealing alcohol, money, beating people up for money, just horrible stuff. I tried to commit suicide on 7 occasions, and on 2 occasions it worked. And I was dead, and they brought me back on the side of a horrible, rainy, wet, smelly Manchester road. One morning I was in the back ends of Manchester, like just offices and factories, no human beings, no houses. And it was pouring down with rain. And for whatever reason, I'm not a religious or anything like that. I hated everybody and anything from what's happened to me. I dropped down to my hands and knees. I looked up to the sky and I said, if there's a God up there, or a universe, or anything, I can't do this on my own anymore. 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner. His name was Derek. Long story short, takes me back to his house. I bathed for the first time in a year. I ate food, proper food, and I wore clean clothes. And he said, you can stay here as long as you want, but you've got to come to these meetings with me, these 12-step meetings, which I hated. But it was a dry bed for the man. While I was there, everybody was complaining what a bad day they'd had. And about halfway through the meeting, this guy said, my name's John, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. I thought, what did he just say? You can't be recovered. What's he talking about? So after the meeting, I went over to him and I said, hey, John, my name's Rob. Will you sponsor me? And he said, no, but I will be a spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks, which is the weirdest thing in the world. Okay. But the guy spoke, and he was true, and he was real. And so for 12 weeks, I went down to that man's house every Wednesday. I left Derek's at 6. I got there for 7 walking. I stayed with him till 8, and I got back home for 9. The only specific thing he told me is if I got downstairs for 5:27, I can't come up until 1:27. I think, okay, ADHD. Back in the day, we didn't know what it was, but it's obviously loopy. So I did that. And the last time I left him, he told me all sorts of things will happen. You know, your life will change for tomorrow. And I said, I'm in Derek's basement on a blow-up mattress. It's impossible. My day changed the day after. Anyway, within a week, I got a full-time job, which was incredible. So after a couple of weeks, this man showed me everything. He guided me. He talked about all sorts of stuff. He talked about my uncle Bob in the spirit world, which is always looking after me, and I kind of knew that. So I get my first paycheck. I headed to the gas station, man. I just wanted to buy my little teddy bear, so I could afford it. It was only this big, and a card. And I went back to his house, and his apartment, the curtains seemed a little bit dirtier than it was, but I knocked on the door, there was no answer. I knocked again and again, and the girl in the right-hand apartment came out, and she says, can I help you? And I said, yeah, where's John? Has he moved somewhere? And she said, John who? I said, John, your neighbor, are you drunk? Well, I've only been here for 3 months. I don't know anything about that. So I let her go in, went to the left hand, banged on the door. This big guy came to the door. What do you want? I said, I'm not messing with you. I just need to know where's John relocated to. He said, John who? And I'm thinking, what's going on with these guys? Are they all crazy or drunk or high?
Yeah.
The guy lives next door to you. It's like, I've been there 12 times. You wouldn't have to tell me that that apartment was derelict. And if you walked in that room, open the door and watch it, you would fall down 2 flights to the ground, and you can't go in, and there used to be red tape all over it. And so I thought, this is ridiculous, because I know it was real. So I went back to the meeting there and met him. And as I walked in, the chairman said, oh my God, Rob. I said, thank God for that. You recognize me at last. And I said, does John still come here? And he said, John who?
Oh my God.
I said, John, I'm over in the corner near the coffee machine. I'm speaking to him. And he said, Rob, we thought you were speaking to yourself. There's no guy. Never found that guy. And I put, when I started getting wealthy, because everything he told me came true, I put the best private detective agency in North England to try and find him, and nobody could trace him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And since that, my life has been, like, I got cancer of the esophagus when I first come to Texas about 17, 16 years ago. I didn't have health insurance, but they took me in. And John told me all this. And they come back up and they said, look, you've got cancer of the esophagus. Do you have family back in England? So they called my mum and dad about 4 o'clock in the morning, their time. Woke them up, told them that I have cancer. So I'm going in for surgery. The chance of coming around is not great. So I just wanted to tell you that they're crying, I'm crying, and it's horrible. Next minute I know, I wake up. I'm in the bed, it's the same room, it's like 6 doctors now with 4 guys in suits. They told me to sign this, my wife said, just sign the paper, sign. So what they told me is, when we went down before we operated, we always do a last x-ray and the cancer had gone. And the stories I can tell you that's based around that, that's happened to me, is just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Amazing. Why do you think this happened to you? That you met John? Why do you think? Do you have any feelings on that?
I grew up on a project. I grew up on a really rough area, and in the back of my mind, the subconscious part of my mind, I always knew, even when I was homeless, that something was waiting for me to go on and to help others. I love that. Even when I'm overdosing, I'm sat there thinking, this isn't it, I know it's not it. So I just think, knowing what I know now, because we help millions of people, we give back into the communities, most of our work, 25% is pro bono. Me and my wife give money back to $150,000 a year, I think, back into the community. So I think I was brought through this and shown angel, spirit, I don't know what to call John, to be who I am and where I am today. And that's all I can put it down to, but I would never share that story because I thought, well, first of all, people wouldn't believe me, and secondly, people might thought I was crazy. But when I started sharing it, people were like, oh my, I went through something like that myself. So when Courtney said you need to be on this show, I'm like, oh my God, they'll understand what's happened, because everyone else was like, oh yeah, of course, Rob, that's what you went through. It's like, that's what happened, because I am not here on my own. Like, I couldn't do this on my own. I'm not this clever. People think I am, but I'm not this clever. So it's been a great journey over the past 25, 30 years.
I love that you shared that. Such a different paranormal, if we will, supernatural experience. A positive one versus for Kristine was like, scared. And I think it's so fascinating because my first husband had a horrific car accident. We were in our early 20s, and most everybody thought he didn't. They thought there was a newspaper article that he didn't survive, which was incorrect. But I remember the first time I saw him, and I was raised religious. I'm not religious anymore. I'm just deeply spiritual. Big difference. But I remember walking in and seeing him, and I put my hand on him, and of course they'd put him in a coma, and I just felt like something picked me up and put its arms around me. So I never saw anything or talked anything, but I just knew I was the only one at that time that knew he was going to be okay. So it's interesting how we find these things, or these things come to us and can be very, very, very positive experiences a lot of times. But in your case, you didn't know that at all until it was over. That's wild.
The other one I really quick I have is when they took me in, I had a twisted esophagus about 4 years ago in San Antonio. And there was a mix-up between the nurse and the doctor. She said, what can you give him? And he heard, what should I give him? Anyway, they overdosed me and I died in this room, face down on this room. My pulse and my heart stopped. But I remember me getting up and seeing myself on the bed and walking out and telling the nurse, hey, listen, you need to help me. I'm dead around the corner. Can you come? Can you come? And I walked back and then I was back in my body. Now, this nurse, she's supposed to have a break at 11 a.m. It was now 3 p.m. She ran to get coffee. She passed my door with the window locked in and all my gown was open. So she came in and she found me dead and she brought me back to life.
Wow. Wow. You are clearly meant to be here. You are not allowed to go anywhere anytime soon, apparently. And John was like, would you stop trying to take yourself out? It's not okay.
Yes,
Stick
yes,
around.
yes, definitely.
Oh my goodness. I love that you shared that. I'm so glad you're here today. What an interesting experience to share. Wow. And anybody that thinks we're crazy that have these experiences, you have to experience that yourself. When you haven't had in my opinion, when you haven't had the experience or something like this, it is difficult to accept somebody else's story when we share it. Absolutely. It's just like Kristine's parents. Nicole, though, I want to hear from you as well. Of course we do. So what did you bring to the table today?
It was very difficult for me to figure out, thank you for having this, by the way. It was very difficult for me to figure out exactly which story to actually tell, because I've been doing house cleansings and clearings. I've been, a lot of different situations throughout my whole entire life since I was 4. So, and being a medium, being able to see everything, because I visually see, I don't see things in my head, I visually see. So I can see.
Oh, okay.
I can see. So usually what I have happen, usually people that, even people that they can't see, but they're a medium, they can see in their heads. Tell me to come back to situations, and I help them find out what had happened. And I help understand what had happened as well. So I guess I can do really scary stories that people would be very, very scared about. And I can do really amazing, beautiful stories as well. So I can do one of each really quickly if you like.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I think it's good for people to understand that there are a lot of beautiful stories, but there are some things, and there's some dark stuff that does show up. And so it is important to also know, someone I'm very close to, he and I have had this conversation recently, and he has said, there's some dangerous stuff, and our spiritual views are quite different. But I said, yes, but you just have to know how to manage it. You can't open yourself up blatantly or not blatantly. Let's just say in an uneducated manner. It is important to understand. So I think it's good that you share those with us.
Well, since I was a child, I've had archangels around me, and so I kind of know, and they would verbally say who they were and whatnot. So I kind of didn't even know them until I had to ask my uncle, who is he has his doctorate in theology, and we went to church. So I had to ask who these beings were, these people. It's full of light things that you realize that they're actually portal fields around them. It's not necessarily wings, but it's just energy, right? So I would ask him all these questions, and he would go, well, that's not Christian. It's actually Kabbalic or Jewish, who Metatron is. And he said that, and I told him that apparently is my spirit guide. He told me that's what it is. So all these weird things would happen, and I would ask my uncle, and I would talk to the pastor of my church as well, and basically it was okay, right? In terms of having them see and what I'm saying, and know that I'm kind of telling the truth, because I would see things and I would tell them. So it's really interesting. Even last year, the happy one is that I usually get visitors, and I see visitors all the time in my room. That's just it. We are never alone because we have our family. It's basically it. And so I went to the washroom and I came back in. It's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And I realized what I was looking at. And all I was looking at were geometric shapes.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you doing here? And it just said telepathically that he's just observing what's going on.
Interesting.
Something different, geometrical. So I assumed that it was a higher dimensional being of some kind. It's really funny that I ended up saying, I haven't seen you in a while. So obviously, apparently I knew him beforehand, and I didn't realize that. And you have these situations happen all the time, right? I say things and I go, oh, I haven't seen you in 3 years, or whatever it is, right? And they're always here to help. And if you have the intention that you know that you're protected and you're loved and you're safe, nothing can really affect you.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm also what do you call it? How do I say this? I am a record keeper for spirit.
Okay.
And so I'm also Indigenous, and I'm Ojibwe. And so I have ancestors that would come by and explain what had happened to them as they passed, or what had happened. And I'd get dates and names and everything. And I'd have to research and seeing whether or not there was actually tribe in that area in 17, whatever it is. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's actually true in Google. So things like that. So I have a lot of recordings of what had happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting one of the interesting ones that I can say is, there's many. So I guess, being that it's Halloween, is that I had a boyfriend one time, and he worked with addiction. He worked with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived in a city about 2-3 cities over. And he called me one time out of the blue, and he says, I need some help. And he couldn't even see. And he's a medium also. He can see like I can see. And he says, I can't see. And I said, do you have your permission in order to see what you're seeing? And he says, yes. And so I astral projected outside and find out where he was. And I said, you're here. And he says, yeah, I think so. So I ended up going. I stopped the car pretty much where he was, and there really was a pylon. If he was a pylon, there's all these little demon devils, whatever it is, on top of them.
Oh.
So it was probably about 5 feet around him. And because I'm me, and because you're you, and everybody here that is full of light, because we are loved and cared for and protected, we are that light. So all I did was walk right towards him, and I gave him a hug, and everything scattered.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really who we are. We always will be. They cannot touch us.
I just said this the other day in this conversation that I had. I said, the dark cannot withstand the light. When light shows up, dark goes away.
Right. And, you know, what had happened is that, yes, there was a big, huge field. Yes, the field was covered with all these little interesting things. Yes, they were human at one point. Yes, there's one big, huge one that had his arms outstretched, is like 12 feet tall, white eyes. It was just very interesting. It was really, really scary to a lot of people. And what he did, what he believed, and what he allowed that person that he helped kill, whatever, they believed in it, because they're in such a bad state, that I asked the ex-boyfriend, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it, what had happened. And I said, I believe I know, but I want to hear from you what you thought you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, all I know is that I wanted to get by water. And I said, yep, because you were going to drown. So he was almost a willing participant in order to have life to be done. And I basically put him in the car, and I had to put, if this was his foot, and I had to take his foot and take all the energy off, because where he stepped onto, that thing would have remembered and tried to get into my house. I don't want.
Oh, interesting.
So, and it was there, and it started to snarl, and all I did was blow, and I blew, and it went right back into the center, because all I was doing was blowing love.
Yeah.
Your unconditional love. And it didn't like it. And that's why these things do not like love. They scatter.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't have, so when anything negative or dark shows up, when we can, and I talk about this because I do a lot of dream work. And so when we have a nightmare, for that matter, it takes practice, it takes courage and confidence, but you turn around and face whatever it is that's freaking you out, it's chasing you, or whatever's happening, and go, what do you want? What are you trying to tell me? And so when we face it and we get to that point, we're better able to manage it. We don't have the deep fear anymore. But when we don't have that, we don't have a support system around us, to help that or help us get to that point, it can be exceptionally scary. And as Kristine had a very scary experience, then it makes it very difficult to go forward and not be afraid of having one of those experiences again without guidance of how to handle it, and to know, hey, guess what? When you're this beautiful bright light, stand in your strength and your power. There's an army, if you will, of bright lights. And so you're not by yourself, though it feels like we are when we're here and something like that happens.
And there are people that we consider to be, I guess the term is light workers. I just find them to be people that just want to spread love. That's what I call them. Yep. And we have people that are around us that are so wanting to give and to share and to give love and to help people. And I have a tendency of attracting those people so I can help demystify it, I guess, and to help understand what has happened so that you can be more empowered, because it's not my journey, it's yours. And that's what I really do enjoy. I seem to have people that have been in this industry for about, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years, and still coming to me and asking me to look at the situation from that perspective. And I can just, because I visually see, I'm a little bit different, where I can see timelines and I can go back in time. I can do all this stuff to help people understand it. There are situations where there are past life work, whatever it is. And so that person has a soul tie with them. So they didn't really understand what is happening, but they believed, not the person, but the entity, whatever it is, believes that they can do so. Because we may have been vulnerable at the situation, certainly can affect us. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. I have been in situations where I have been pushed, and that was just because the fact that I was so tired and my guard was down. I was just pushed in my own home because of the fact that I had a rush of fairies that wanted to get into the room behind me. They're like, I'm getting in there first.
Well, and I think because, if we're not, sometimes they just need to have that interaction. And it's not always beings, right? Sometimes it's our pets, past pets. I've had that many times over. So there's other things. And I think that the fact of, one, I want everybody to take into account today. If you have listened to all of this right now, we have 4 very different people sitting in front of you. 4 people that have had vastly very different experiences. And yet we're all sitting at the same kitchen table and appreciating and respecting the fact that, holy cow, there's so much that we don't understand. And we're all sitting here together and supporting each other and holding the safe space to have shared the stories that we've shared. I shared little snippets of stories today. But these are, I mean, as Dr. Robb said, it took him years to even tell it, right? And Nicole, people are like, some of these things, or Kristine, your parents are like, yeah, whatever, you were dreaming, or other people, oh, it's just sleep paralysis, which is a real thing, obviously, but that doesn't mean that you're not in that state at that time of sleep paralysis, that you're not, because I've been lucid during sleep. That's why you are lucid at that point. That's why that's why you can't move and you have that moment, and it's a very creepy feeling. But then you also are in that state of consciousness at that point where you're more open to some other things too that we wouldn't normally be open to. So it's really a fascinating conversation today, for sure. You guys have all just like, I could just sit here and just listen. There's so many amazing pieces. And yes, there's this fun, let's tell ghost stories idea for October, but I also really wanted to bring it out to people that the stories that we have within us, the things that we've experienced, when we sometimes feel like we cannot share them because other people are going to go, you're crazy, cuckoo. And we have to have the safe space because we are very, very vulnerable when we share those with people. And so I'm really happy that all of you were brave enough to sit down with me today, and that you're brave enough to share these stories in other places as well, because there's a reason that we're supposed to be sharing these stories with other people or experiences or whatever you have, other work that you're doing in the world, the help that you're doing in whatever capacity that it is. It doesn't have to be spiritual work, right? So I just want to thank all 3 of you for that today, first of all. I also do want to make sure, though, that go back really quickly. I'm going to go back around one more time before we wrap up today, because I feel like we're not done, but I know I try not to keep the shows too long. I want everybody to know how they can find you, how they can locate you online if they want to know more. And like Kristine does work that has nothing to do with spiritual work, for example, and that's totally fine. But it's important. So I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to share that. Of course, any links that you guys have gotten to me, I will make sure that those are in the show notes as well. So Kristine, I'm going to pass the baton back to you momentarily.
Thank you very much. It was really incredible actually being able to hear all of these different ghost stories and spiritual encounters. Because yeah, like you said, JC, like I don't think anyone in my actual close circle or family or anything like that believes in ghosts or spirits. So it's really cool to actually know that there's lots of people out there that experience these things, good or bad. I actually met a girl years ago who was living in this house in college with some roommates, and they had resident spirits on each floor. And she would come on and we would do co-working rooms all the time. And she would come online once a week and update us on what's going on with all of the spirits in the house. And sometimes if one of them came off of their levels, they would fight or something, and they would wake up to some ruckus in the night and stuff. And I just found that absolutely crazy that they loved living there with all of this spiritual craziness going on. So it is a really cool world, and I'm just too freaked out to dive deep into it.
That's okay. So Kristine, how can people find you online if they're wanting help with their podcast to manage that?
Yeah. Yeah. So spiritual things aside, I am on Facebook at Kristine Susa, and I'm on Instagram at kristinesusa.dcm. I'm pretty sure I gave my website link to JC. So if you guys want to find me, just hit that and it links you right to there. And book a call with me. There's no better time to launch podcasts than January in the brand new year. That's when everyone's kind of trying new things, doing resolutions, all that stuff. So getting your launch and everything all set up before that so we can launch officially in January. Now is the best time to do that. And I'm offering the first 3 people 50% off of launch packages. Just for that, just to get everything kickstarted, because right now there is no better time to start launching your podcast.
Oh yeah. And podcasts, you can make so many connections on podcasts. I mean, there's so many reasons I've podcasted since 2009. I completely highly recommend it. Dr. Robb.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, guys, come find me. It's Dr. Robb Kelly in any search engine. I spelled with 2 B's, so ROBBKELLY.com. Come find us, come and chat with us. We're not taking patients right now, so if you need any help or advice, my guys will talk to you all day long on message and text. We just want to be here for you guys. And remember to slow down and open your mind.
Beautiful, beautiful. So freaking true. Nicole?
Website is NicoleBarker-trees.com. And I know that I'm in Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, I believe, but I can't remember exactly how to do the hyphens or the underscores, but I'm sure that you put Nicole Barker, you'll be able to.
And I'll make sure I have everyone's links, I promise, or at least the main ones that we get them to you. So, and here it is in October, and I'm making an interesting pivot. My education all falls under, well, for those of you that know what this is, transpersonal psychology and transpersonal counseling. So I'm making a shift with my storytelling, y'all. So it is all focused on dream work, the messages that come through our dreams, which falls into a lot of what we've been talking about, because you never know what you're going to encounter in a dream as well. And so that's an exciting piece that I'm doing, as well as touching on past lives. So anyways, but for today, we are out of here. Make sure if you have any questions about anything these guys have talked about or interested in getting help from them with what they do, make sure to reach out to them. But for now, we are out of here, and we will catch you next time.